Yeah,
create
no,
little
very
divots.
nice.
Yeah, so trying to actually move the chair is hard because this wants to sink back to where it was. I
Ah,
am closer now that I'm good. It's all good.
all right. Good morning, anyone who happens to be watching now or in the dim and distant future on YouTube. This is episode 265, and even though last week I said we would never do three guests again, we have, just because, oh, why not? Why not? So we'll be starting very, very shortly. Somewhere in here I've actually got the chat, so... Good morning, everyone. Let's see, Fiona, Charlie, KB Young. I don't recognise that name.
That's my friend. Hi,
Ah,
Bam Bam.
there you go. And Kildo Wolftooth, is that someone you know as well? Don't recognise that name either.
Let's see. Who belongs to me? Dead King 1, that's mine. KB Young 12, that's mine.
Okay.
Everyone else is in trouble.
Sorta Evan. Good day. And yeah, if in case you're curious, it may take a while to get there. We'll get to the discussion at the end, which is where Christina is going to talk lots about performance matters. Apparently she does. Hello, Kirkadoodle. And Solik. Anyway, alright, so I do have to pick a winner, and let's see, where is it? Let me just edit that. There's only a couple. Random.org. So, just got to pick I had a faucet, but I don't have any. Oh yeah, I do. It's actually easier just to type. Right, the winner is the second one, Chill. That would be...
Okay.
Let me just enter that in. Yeah, so... Adelaide, again, last night. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's funny. Adelaide is another city in Australia. It's about 2.5 hours flight down there from Brisbane. It's literally like going back in time. There's something about the place that reminds me of the 70s or the 80s. It's just something weird about that city.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just strange. Alright. Don't think we've got anything else to cover. Alright, remember, in your weeks, don't talk too much about your main topics, because we will get to that stuff later. And I reckon we're ready to roll. Anyone want any last minute questions before we roll? Let me tweet out, because I always forget. If you're looking for a Twitter client on the web, I can highly recommend TweetDeck. It's fantastic. Alright, tweeting now.
You used to have that.
No, it's great now. I tried it ages ago and it was crap, but now it just works fully just HTML in Chrome or whatever your browser is, and it's just really good.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the developers give up on TweetDeck a while back?
I think they
Might
got
be wrong.
bought by Twitter or something. Alright, Chill, we should be ready to roll.
All right. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast. Soon you will learn to appreciate us. Oh. This is episode 265, being recorded on Wednesday, June 15th, 2016. I'm your host, Chill, with our producer and co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey guys.
And we've got several guests today. We've got Christina joining us again, and Charlie Kranatoko. But let's start off with a new guest, Daniel. So Daniel, you reached out to us because you have a project, which we will talk about more about later, but go ahead and just give us a little introduction.
Okay, hi, well, I've been playing SWTOR since it launched, and I play a Sith Sorcerer. My spec is Corruption, and I actually leveled from 1 to 50 as a DPS, and then I decided I can be a lot more useful as a healer. So I've been healing since just before 2.0 is when I switched.
Okay.
And I'm the guild master of a very small guild on the Shadowlands. It's called the Guild Who Must Not Be Named. And on the Republic side, it's the Guild Who Lived. And
Awesome.
we are working on progression into hard modes. We can beat Karaga's and Eternity Vault very easily. And we're trying to add to that repertoire. And so we've had people come and go recently, as I think a lot of guilds have. And so just trying to... We have about 6 or 7 people that are solid 2 times a week. And my wife is also part of the guild, so that makes it very easy to spend time playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 14 tunes total. I try to do every advanced class, and then so if I have 2 inquisitors, one is going to be an assassin, the other will be a sorcerer, and one is male and one is female, so I can see all the conversations. And this week I've been doing heroics almost all day because I took the day off. Some big things related to the project I'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
And SWOTOR has been a huge part of my life ever since it launched.
Cool.
Excellent.
HL, could you mute when you talk, please? Just, please.
Okay. Sorry. All right. And Christina, it's nice to have you back. How you been?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Right.
You guys were a good luck, because right after I came on this show, I booked like a really sweet job. Not a video
Excellent.
game job, but still a sweet job, so thanks.
Congratulations.
That's good news. Yeah.
Yeah.
And right after we finished the last episode, we realized that there was kind of a big issue that we were planning on talking about with you that we didn't get to. So we're going to talk about it this week, correct?
Yay! Yes, we are. I have all my notes and things. We're going to get real into it.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anything in game that you want to talk about right now?
No, I have a grade at 9, and I was like, oh, I have podcast at 7:30, and they were like, did you forget? No. Maybe. And someone was like, just rate and podcast at the same time. You can do it.
What could go wrong?
Sure.
What could go wrong?
I believe people have done that in the past. It is possible.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to talking about that a little later then. Charlie, it's been a little while for you too. How you been?
It has, yes. I'm not too bad. I'm currently on my holiday at the moment from work, so I've got a week off. I can do whatever
awesome.
the heck I want, and I've
Awesome.
really not been doing much. It's kind of been a waste of a holiday, to be honest with you. Obviously, E3 has come around, which we'll talk about in a moment, because every
cool.
year I always book this time of year off for E3, so I can watch conferences, stay up late and not have to worry about work, and then I got like the rest of the week for whatever, really.
Right.
In game, I've done a little bit of the Jedi Console. I've recorded about 3 episodes today for my channel because I really need to get behind that because I'm pretty much. I keep doing this. I keep starting up a series on my channel and then I stop again, and then weeks later go by, I start it up again, then I stop, and it's
Right.
just, I need to get the Jedi Console finished. Just so that I can get onto Knights of the Fallen Empire on the Republic side. Obviously, with all the Hypercrate stuff I get, I had to sell a lot of it. Funny story as well. I actually, when I was selling some stuff, I actually encountered somebody who was selling something which normally goes for about 2 million on the GTM for about 180,000. So I decided to buy that up and obviously give it back to the guy, so that obviously he's not being short-changed of nearly 2 million credits, and he sent me a lovely message to say thank you very much for doing that for me. You know, and it's amazing that there's some really good people in MMOs, because you really don't see many good people in MMOs these days. So I thought I might as well be
Right.
one of those people.
Yay.
Played the Star Wars: The Force Awakens demo, which came out on PlayStation 4 the other day. I did that on my channel as well, and the views keep rising. You know, a lot of people are really watching that. In
That's excellent.
over 40 hours, 2,400 views. That's not too bad. That's, in fact, great compared to what my other videos do in like a day or two.
Yeah.
Finally, I have made T-shirts for Star Wars Celebration, which is next month now. What they are is my characters, Kranatoka and Strander. Strander's in his gear, which will be for like I'll put them both. Kranatoka needs to be centralized a little bit because there was a small hiccup when I was creating my T-shirts. Originally, they had the Kranatoko had the Empire logo behind him, and Strand had the Republic logo behind him, with the sort of logos which I do for my thumbnails for my characters, which I used to do for my characters, I should say. And they contacted me and they said to me, "I'm afraid you can't have those logos, those symbols in your T-shirt because of legal issues." So I had to remove all of those, and so it'll just be the characters. But it still looks good without the logos. But just have to go with it, really. I did ask him if I were to contact Musco, and he gave me permission if I could, but I don't think it's as simple as that. But oh well,
it may not be, yeah. And the t-shirt companies tend to be a little conservative, especially when it's logos that they will recognize.
Yeah. Clearly they recognised it because they knew what game it was from. They was like, "Oh, sorry, you can't have those logos from Star Wars." The Old Republic, like, "Yay! Even these T-shirt people know it." So
Exactly.
yeah, that kind of excited me. So obviously, one T-shirt's for one day, one T-shirt's for another day. I've still got a third day. Obviously, there's 3 days. It's a whole weekend. So I'm tempted to maybe book out a costume for the day. You can get it. You can book out a costume for about £100, £100. So I guess we'll see what I decide, but I may just end up with just 2 T-shirts and a regular Star Wars T-shirt. But we'll see.
Excellent. All right. And Tio, how about your week?
Yes, believe it or not, I did not actually get to play any this week because I spent all my free time, when I wasn't doing other stuff, editing the Galactic Gamers Coalition. I mentioned that last week. It took me a full week to get the damn thing out, but it is out. It was published on US Saturday, so go ahead and listen to the 6 of us. It was hosted by OotiniCast this time, with Brian from Bad Feeling, Max from the SWTOR Escape podcast, Knight, not in his car, from Have a Nice Day Cast, and Palace from Star Wars Beyond the Stars. So yes,
Right.
it was a good discussion actually.
It was.
And hopefully this week I'll actually get a chance to play, but we will see. Anyway, over to you, Joel.
All right, let's do a shout out to the chat room. And on today we have Bill646, Blaze here as Blackhawk Gaming, B-Nun88, BoDaddy, Count Luku, Darth Brundlefly, Double Trouble, Dead King 1, Dekion, DreadX, Drea Karen, I guess, I'm not sure how to pronounce that one, D Ziggit, Fiona is here, Jagged Fell, Jesters H, KB Young 12, Kido _ Wolftooth, Kirkadoodle, Kranatoko is here, Lakin Zaro, Morlin, R2D2 Arm, Siskaika, Sith Kitty, Sortarevan, Tukayan 1, Trig PT, Viridian Lion, Wargames, Wastegate, Whistling Breeze, and Weirlock is here. And I met Weirlock in game this week, so which I'll talk about now. So I did a few streams while I was doing some hard mode flashpoints. Weirlock joined me just in a random pug. He happened to be watching the stream anyway. And then when he joined, it was like, "Hey, this is me."
Small world. Yeah.
Yeah. So he healed us through Directive 7, which I think is kind of one of the cooler flashpoints. I really like that one. It's a very self-contained story. Doesn't really connect to a lot of the other lore a whole lot, but very interesting flashpoint with some good fights. Especially the last boss fight is pretty complex for a flashpoint. So that's a good one. And he did a great job healing, and we got through it no problem. So I got multiple streams off during the week. Gearing on the sniper is going well. I tried some PvP, and that did not go well. Very painful, and partly that's gear, of course, but I'm not enjoying having to turret, basically. I want to be more mobile, so I may have to have one PvE tune and one PvP tune instead of just the one, which I was really hoping for. But I'll work on that. Also did a guild run on Karagas Palace hard mode, and we did get to the last boss, despite us mostly being either new to operations completely, or in my case undergeared, or both kind of. But we kind of really pulled it together, got through some pretty tricky fights there, and did get to the last boss. Did not get Karagas himself down though. So we did get a little bit of gear, and that was just obviously a lot of fun. It always is. And I also I spent a lot of time in game working on gifting on my sniper. I actually like set up my iPad and watched some YouTube and just moved GIFs from all alts into the new 6th legacy storage chamber, and it took hours to do that and to get the gifting going and give all the gifts and move all the gifts and figure out anyway. I also based on the actual companions that I had available, I chose ones that had different preferred gifts so that I wouldn't have to split up the gifts that they liked most between 2 and more of them. So I have Kaleo for weapons and Galt for luxuries, Treek for tech, Ensign Temple for imperial, Lana is cultural, Torian trophies, which is great because hardly anyone likes trophies and they're pretty cheap, and Nico for underworld gifts. So that worked out pretty well. All of them are in the mid-20s, and Kaleo and Ensign Temple are in the 30s, high 30s actually. So still, it took a long time, but it was worth it. And also, I had like so many gifts that I just sort of built up over the years actually, and they're pretty much all gone now. I have a few. There's a few categories that are not preferred, so I'm just working on selling those, making some coin. And I have a 6th, bar that's or not bar, but 6th tab that's almost completely empty, which is kind of nice. I ended up having like 5,500 Warzone med packs too, so I'm set on those.
Wow.
It almost, I was wondering if I was going to get all the way up to needing an actual second box of them, but it didn't quite get that far. But it turned out I had tons of those things just hiding on characters that I just slowly built up over time. Yep. So anyway, and that actually took hours and hours. So even though I did do some streams, there was a lot of time when I was actually on the game, but just not on stream because I would feel that there would be nothing to do except watch me on my banking. Yeah, exactly. And I would have to just talk the whole time, and that would quickly go. Yeah. After a while, you kind of get tired of doing that, especially when nothing is changing and you have to come up with new topics. So I just did that off stream, and that was fine.
I'll talk about politics and religion. I'm sure you'd find something to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'll be lots of fun. I actually had someone try to get me to talking about politics, and I quickly moved away from that. Although, I understood why they were asking, because it was, let's just say, it was about the big issue that happened over the weekend. Yeah.
Right.
So that'll bring us to the tip of the week, and we have 2 tips this week. First one I'll read out is from Cal. Cal writes, just caught up with the cast. If you want Bodar, just reset the mission. You don't lose influence, and you can just redo the final conversation, and he should appear where he's supposed to. At least, he did with me.
And that was referring to my issue, which I described last week, where I talked about go downstairs to meet him outside the arena, and he's just not there. So Cal says all I have to do is reset the mission. She'll be right. So I will give that a try. Thank you, Cal. And our second tip is from Andrank of the Galaxy Knights Guild on the Harbinger. My tip is for an AoE ability, like Mortar Volley or Kolto Bomb for a trooper. If you target an NPC or player as normal, then double-click, or double press if it is keybound, the ability will then put your target at the center of the AoE and rain down destruction on it. Or heals if you like that sort of thing. I'm sure this is old news, but I am not very up to date. And it's reasonably old news, but it was a feature that they actually added not a few months back, or is it years?
Oh, yeah. It was before Kotfi.
Right, yeah, it was an addition to the game where it never used to work like this. You can actually configure it so it works the old way. We actually have to always manually position it, but the double click end is fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the best things I've done.
Time. My mum was blown when I found out you could do it. It was amazing.
It is. It's really good. And then the nice thing is, even if you like manually placing them, you can still do that. You just don't double click it. You just do a single click, and you can put it wherever you want.
Indeed.
So it's very slick. Yeah. All right, and by random allotment, the winner is Andorank. So congratulations, Andorank. You're the winner of a Tonfun or M83R Droid pet code, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Tuesday. That will bring us to the Hollow feed, Teal.
We are clearly in the mid-chapter lull in terms of Star Wars The Old Republic news, so we more or less have none. So let's just summarise some reminders. I suppose I should mention there was a maintenance on Tuesday with no client patch. It was just 3 hours, originally 2. They extended it to 3 of some back-end maintenance to do whatever they do with the hardware or the software or whatever behind the scenes. So anyway, that went off as normal. This week we do have Bounty Contract Week that started on Tuesday and will continue until next Tuesday, the 21st of June. And then no event that week until June 28th, where we have Relics of the Gree for a week, until July the 5th. Also on June 28th, of course, is Game Update 4.6 and early access to Chapter 15, our second chapter for the month. And that is, you will get early access, of course, if you happen to be subscribed on the 1st of June. So, yes, otherwise you'll have to wait until the Thursday, 30th of June, to get into Chapter 15, which is the penultimate chapter for Season 1. And we still don't know exactly when Chapter 16 is going to be, presumably sometime late-ish July. Probably roughly 4 weeks after the 28th of June, but to be confirmed. Oh, and also there is a Cartel Market sale on that started on Tuesday, will continue for a week until next Tuesday, where the new disavowed packs, Cartel Market packs, are 50% off their normal prices, which would put them at 100 Cartel coins, one would assume. Now, Charlie, do you happen to know if the Hypercrates are on special as well?
I didn't look, no, unfortunately. I could probably see if I can find out, though. I'm sure...
Are you in-game?
Another website would know.
Oh, yes.
Which I won't name. Bear me a second.
Just so we can include this without having to edit in later, which is always a pain in the
Sure.
ass.
Yes, they are.
And Charlie did just confirm off-air that the Hypercrates are also 50% off. So knock yourself out. A good time to buy.
Yeah.
Now, last week we had a tweet from Swotor on Twitter, and this has probably also appeared on Instagram and on Facebook. The early concept art of the Zakuulan, as in on Zakul, cityscape. And it's just a panoramic shot, or just certainly widescreen version or picture of some concept art, which I'll include a link to in the show notes. It's very pretty. Their artists are excellent as always. And Zakul is kind of unique, though one shouldn't think too hard about the fact that those skyscrapers actually extend all the way into orbit. So that still doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it looks spectacular to watch or to see, but yeah, unless Zakul is a really, really tiny planet with a really dense core, so it's got normal gravity, and all the atmosphere is really shallow, whatever.
Star Wars, don't question it.
Yes, I shouldn't be thinking too hard about that. Alright, however, the big thing happening this week, of course, is E3. And EA, Electronic Arts, had their press conference ahead of the E3 event itself, which is more or less where they revealed all of the stuff they were going to reveal. Now, Charlie is going to give us a quick summary of what happened at E3 itself, but before we get there, at the EA event, there was a video that was put out. It's called EA Star Wars, A Look Ahead. And they just quickly run through various people who are working on or leading the teams working on Star Wars games for EA. And as you know, EA does have the apparently exclusive license to Star Wars gaming. The video's about 3 minutes, and let me just quickly run through who's in it. Firstly, Justin McNally, who is the general manager of EA Star Wars, which I didn't actually realise was a division within the company, but there you go.
They created a division. That's cool.
Sigalina Ingvar's daughter is a senior producer on Star Wars Battlefront. She presumably works for DICE.
Yeah.
Mark Thompson, game director of Motive, at EA Montreal. Stig Asmussen, game director of Respawn Entertainment. John Solera, executive producer on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, that's that mobile game. And then we had James Olin, director of design on Star Wars The Old Republic. And so, let's see. Apparently you got about 22 seconds where they showed material from chapters 1 to 10 and from the original Codfee Blur trailer.
Right.
And they also had James Olin actually talking about Star SWTOR. And he came up with a really interesting line at the end. The last thing he said was, "And beyond the Old Republic, there are so many stories that we still want to tell." Beyond the Old Republic.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Interesting.
Exactly.
Yes. Are they secretly developing something else? Who knows? We
Indeed.
won't be told until they're ready to tell us.
Indeed.
But I wonder what happened in those 3,000 years, so anything could have happened.
True that.
Well, there's
Alright,
a lot of
so
time between
couple more
them and Bane.
A couple more people in the EA video was Doug Chiang, who's probably well known from the Story Group. He's currently the VP and Executive Creative Director at Lucasfilm. Now remember, Lucasfilm does still exist.
Oh, yeah.
It's just part of Disney, of course. And Jade Raymond, VP, Vice President of GM Motive Studios and Visceral Games. So those are all the guys working on Star Wars games for EA. And oddly enough, towards the end of the video, just after Jade Raymond was talking, they had a shot where you can clearly see Eric Musker on the front, and you can recognize various other people from EA Austin's. So this must be the SWTOR team, or at least part of it,
Yeah.
in a very large open plan office, and I believe they have moved into a new building. Because I seem to remember someone mentioning that recently.
I think they did say
on a
that
live
they
stream.
did move.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
looks
definitely
very
looks.
fancy.
It does not look like the old building. So
Yeah, and Eric never used to be in the same room with them all, so clearly it's now this massive open plan area. So
right.
cool. But yes, they put it somewhere where you would never actually associate it with EA Austin, but I guess just another team in the EA monolith.
Right. So yeah, we can look forward maybe to Star Wars: The Middle-Aged Republic.
All right, now just quickly run through what Jade Raymond, who's the general manager of Motive and Visceral, she actually put together a summary for EA Star Wars, just talking about all of their Star Wars work. They talk about in 2016 adding the new DLC for Battlefront, including Bespin, the Death Star, and a final pack in December that they're especially excited about. Whatever. And for VR fans, DICE is also working with Criterion on an exclusive Star Wars Battlefront VR virtual reality mission for PlayStation VR. So, cool. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, a mobile game. They're adding a bunch of new features like guilds, raids, and chat. Basically turning it into an MMO on your mobile. I mean, there are other mobile MMOs, but yes, they're sort of branching out. Interesting. Of course, there isn't that much gameplay, I didn't think, in Galaxy Heroes, but whatever. And finally, in December, they mention that SWTOR will celebrate its 5th anniversary, and the game keeps getting better. You can expect more of BioWare's high-quality, story-driven content and new game features throughout the year. Yippee. All right, 2017, new installment
anniversary.
of... Indeed. 2017, there's a new installment of Star Wars Battlefront being worked on with DICE in collaboration with Motive. And they are not going into specifics, but I believe this is Battlefront 2, where there's been rumours that they will actually include a single-player campaign this time. That was one of the big criticism of the original Battlefront. It was on multiplayer only. And players like me aren't really that interested in multiplayer PvP, basically. So...
The thing is, how long did it even take them to make Battlefront 1? But, well, I say Battlefront 1, this Battlefront. It took them years, and it just seems too soon that they're going to suddenly make this one and apparently have a single-player one as well. It's like, so much content in this one, which is only taking like 3 years to develop, so little content in the one we just had, which took, what, 4, 5 years to develop?
It's always hard to tell. That duration, they could have had quite a small team early on and then spun up large towards the end. They have it's an established product, so they're not
I was
really
gonna say.
writing a new version. All they're doing is extending it and adding new features.
Yeah, it
which
could
is
almost
always easier.
right. It could almost look like a sequel. Yeah.
Exactly, and almost certainly will. Almost certainly will. All right, so they don't mention anything else. So they're not saying what SWTOR's doing in 2017. Or 2018 for that matter.
Right.
So in 2018, that's when we'll get this new action-adventure game from Visceral. And they're not really telling us anything about that. That's the one led by Amy Hennig. And yeah, I mean, the rumours again are something, this could be 1313 made real, could be something completely unrelated to Lucas Games 1313. Who knows? And then beyond 2018... they've got other stuff in production. Respawn Entertainment, they're making their own third-person action-adventure game. Maybe that's 1313. But anyway, one that features a different style of gameplay and takes place in a different timeline we have yet to explore with our EA Star Wars titles.
Huh.
In between some movie they haven't actually touched on yet. Maybe, or before,
Or maybe
or
it's
after.
going beyond the movies.
They can't. No chance. No chance.
Yeah,
think?
I was gonna say,
No.
they're- as much fun as that would be, that it would, yeah.
Yeah.
The guys in
Canon-wise,
chat are
that's
saying...
tricky.
Guys in chat are saying they want more X-Wing and TIE Fighter goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We haven't had a... Yeah. That's... Ideally, yes. And finally... And they're in early pre-production on some other projects that we think you're going to be excited about as well, which could certainly include something that BioWare Austin's working on. But that could have been what
Who
James
knows?
Olin was alluding to. Alright, looking at the time. Alright, let's just quickly touch on a bit more other Star Wars news. Firstly, some 3D printer goodness. 3D printers are very much becoming a thing. You can get a cheapish one for home use that creates things out of plastic. They're kind of amazing, and someone has done the 3D model, which is then printable, and has the picture of the printed version of the smuggler ship, the XS Stock Light Freighter.
Very nice.
Very, very nice. So, with 3D printers, you can literally print anything that you can model in 3D, which is, well, anything, without the moving parts, at least. So, yeah.
And they took some time to paint it, it looks like. So that's
Yeah.
nice too.
Yes, I don't think 3D printers are quite up to that yet, but
Right.
As you say.
Color 3D printers, I'm sure, will be on the market at some point, but not yet.
And finally, this is a kind of bizarre story. It's apparently George Lucas revealed who his intended narrator for the Star Wars movies was. And believe it or not, it's R2-D2. That is, R2-D2, it's all taken from his perspective. And could explain why he tends to be quite heroic. And C-3PO tends to be a bit of a klutz. So it all makes sense. He was there right from the beginning, and it's there all
That's
the
right.
way through. And
His
in
memory was
fact
not
still there.
wiped. Yep.
Unlike C-3PO. Yep. What do we think? Could
Yeah, I saw this theory.
Makes sense.
before.
I mean, I've always called R2-D2, the secret hero of all the movies, and that includes 7. So,
And if he was the one telling the story, it explains
Yeah.
that. Yes.
and not only does it include 7, it even includes Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie. So, I mean, every movie he's heroic in. So, yeah,
This is-
that totally makes sense. And plus, one of the inspirations of the movie was the Kurosawa movie. Gosh, now the name slips from my brain. But basically, the two peasants are basically sort of like they're on the outskirts of this story of great powerful people, but they're two peasants, and the two peasants became 3PO and R2-D2 in the Star Wars story.
Oh, wow.
So basically, they were the narrative device in the original Kurosawa film. So
Okay. And
so
he
it makes
just
sense that
repurposed
R2.
effectively.
Yeah, exactly. They've been repurposed, but they basically are the. It's slightly different, of course, in Star Wars, but same idea. So basically, little people that everyone ignores, and somehow they're around all these important events.
Apparently, the entire
Hidden
story of
Fortress,
Star
thank you.
Wars... The entire story of Star Wars is actually being recounted to the keeper of the Journal of the Wills WHISS. WHILLS. Remember that?
Wheels. Yes.
100 years after the events of Return of the Jedi by none other than R2-D2, because droids are functionally immortal, I guess, as long as they're kept in good repair. So what is a Journal of the Wills? Anyone know?
Is that the
No
book
clue.
that would have told Qui-Gon how to hold on to his identity through death or something?
Very possibly.
I'm trying to remember. I know it. I know I've heard it before.
Let's consult Google.
I am consulting Google now. Journal of the Wills.
It's a journal that referenced the Jedi. Contained a poem concerning the darkness and the light.
Apparently it's in the Force Awakens novel. Hooray.
I don't remember that.
First comes the day, then comes the night. After the darkness shines through the light. The difference, they say, is only made right by the resolving of grey throughout refined Jedi sight. Well, it's
Through
from
refined
Journal of the
Jedi
Wills.
sight. Okay, that's kind of tells us nothing. So awesome. All right. So anyway, it was R2-D2 all along. So that means that when you're watching the movies, take his appearances and everything with a grain of salt, because you may be a little biased. Anyway, that's Star Wars, etc. news. Now let's move on over to the community section, and all we have to talk about this week is Daniel's survey. So Daniel, take it away.
All right. Well, my project is a set of surveys that people will be able to do online. The first half of it has to do with how we play SWTOR and what motivates us to play MMORPGs, but specifically Star Wars: The Old Republic. And then the second half is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which is a psychological assessment tool to give us 4 letters that we combine, and we identify what our personality is overall. And the reason I thought about doing this is, like I said earlier, I created a Sith Sorcerer as my first character, and this is my first MMO, except for probably 2 hours that I played Lord of the Rings Online way long ago. But Star Wars has really just a special place in my heart and soul and everything else about me. So I've just really grown into this game. And I don't know if people are familiar with how the Myers-Briggs works, but if you just Google different fandoms and the Myers-Briggs, you'll see charts where they take different characters and they place them INTJ and ESTP and things like that.
Right.
And I am an INTJ, and that character, if you Google it, is Emperor Palpatine, which is a
What?
Sith sorcerer. And, the lightning-throwing, evil, malicious person. And I was Dark 5 at the time, so I was a lightning-throwing, evil, malicious person. And I thought, oh my god, I have to see if this happens to more people. So in 2011, I was starting my PhD program to have a doctorate in being a therapist and educating therapists. So video games are a thing that whenever something violent and tragic happens and people have played Doom or Call of Duty or GTA, we get a lot of headlines, and I don't think it's that simple, really, seeing what I do. So I wanted to find a way to have a study that captures what I'm passionate about, but doesn't demonize the playing of the game. And it allows us to look at the positive qualities of playing video games. There's lots of literature on that. And I've read over the last 5 years as much of it as I possibly can. So I came to this idea to put these surveys together and really get to the bottom of why Star Wars: The Old Republic and MMOs grab people, but from a positive perspective. And to see if their personality plays into that and in what areas it plays into that. So, I mean, I don't really believe in coincidences all that much, so I'm an INTJ, and I create a Sith Sorcerer. I just wonder if people who end up on that chart being Boba Fett end up creating bounty hunters as their main or
I
things
see.
like that.
Yeah, cool.
Will you also
So-
be looking just for general trends as to what letters show up the most?
Yeah, there's going to be some demographic components. There's a question that I put in there where you just put in the number of hours you play based on the day of the week. The question that I have the most personal curiosity, based on the direction BioWare is going with the game, is I broke down the experience of SWTOR into 10 activities. And I want to see where story ranks across the people who fill out this survey.
Sure.
Because I personally would rank story high up, but operations is the thing that keeps me playing for hours at a time every week. So,
Right.
and each person that completes these surveys is going to rank them 1 to 10. So we will see where crafting falls and where role-playing falls, and just all PvP and all kinds of other things.
Right.
And I just, I think it'll be interesting for someone not BioWare to be able to generate some kind of academic perspective on what people are interested in 2016 as they play SWTOR.
And we want to make sure there's a huge sample size, so the more people who do this survey, the better. He needs as much data as he can to make it meaningful. Now,
Yeah.
Daniel, you do have some incentives, I believe.
Actually, that is one of the sad things I found out today. So today I had a meeting all afternoon with the Institutional Review Board, and they were checking the ethics and that I'm going to protect people's identities and things like that. And they said I can't do an incentive unless every single person who takes the survey gets an incentive. Because if I do a raffle, then I'm supporting the idea of gambling. I can't give people a chance at a prize. So
Oh,
it's now limited to people who just want to help out a member of the SWTOR community do something great in their real
All right.
life.
we got to do something clever about this. Maybe we can offer something somehow.
Yeah, well, my chairperson for the whole dissertation said today absolutely no incentives. I have to
All
let
right.
that idea die. But in order to complete the whole process, obviously I don't own the Myers-Briggs, so we have to do that directly through them.
Sure.
So in the process of doing the surveys, it starts on SurveyMonkey, and then I've created a page when you finish all of my stuff that transfers them over and tells them their username and password, and it will open up in a new window and they complete that over there. So
cool.
that whole thing, I think it will take much shorter than this, but I've been told I have to say it will take less than an hour, because they believe that a person very slow who wants to read every single word and think very hard will get very
Might take an
upset
hour.
if I tell them how long it will take, and it takes longer
Okay.
than that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you power through it, it's going to be
Less.
a lot
Yes.
less. But
Yes,
potentially, it could take an hour.
Yeah, I've done it much shorter than that. I had my wife and sister and other people in my guild. They tested it out for me, and it took them significantly, like a lot less than an hour.
Right.
So anyone
Right.
that's listening, please still consider participating, because it probably will not take you an hour to do this survey.
Right. And how?
Excellent.
Where can we find the link to your SurveyMonkey?
It will be located on surveymonkey.com, and it'll be / and then something. But I can't make it live yet because the
Okay.
IRB has not given me the thumbs up.
Ah,
So
No.
I will
fair enough.
I will stay in communication with the podcast, and I will make you guys one of the first people to know as soon as I'm allowed to say that out loud.
All right.
Okay.
And we will broadcast that. We will mention it on every show going forward. Maybe we'll do something like, if you want to send in your personality type, we'll put you into some sort of drawing ourselves, or something like that. I don't know. We're trying. I want to do something to incentivize people to do Daniel's survey.
Yeah.
I'm
And
Completely
if
unrelated,
people-
because
if
I
people
think I've been
want
following
to-
Daniel on Twitter for like 3 months now.
Oh yeah, I've been going on Twitter and just trying to find people who have hashtag SWOTOR or pictures of their avatars as their profile picture, and I've had really good conversations with a handful of people. There's been a lot of enthusiasm. If you are following me already, thank you so much. I wish I could tell you more. I always have to toe the line of what I'm allowed to say, because I don't want to be accused of doing things I'm not supposed to be doing yet. But if you want to follow me to make sure that you get all the news as soon as possible, are we going to be able to put my Twitter handle in the show notes?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just follow me there. It's Infinite Outcome. The O is a 0. And I will, that's the first place I put information as it goes. And sometimes I just put a tweet out to see if more people will see it. So.
How long
Excellent.
will the survey run, Daniel?
I was going to ask that too.
It will run until I have enough people to complete my dissertation. And after I'm done, the great thing is I can create variations of it. I have my account with SurveyMonkey. My practice has purchased that for the entire year, and I'm very curious about things that BioWare can't let us know. And I might just create sort of a hobby out of identifying data related to how we play.
Oh,
This
that
is
would be
something I'm
fascinating.
passionate about.
That would be awesome.
That really
Yeah.
would. And when your dissertation is done and you've got some conclusions from all this data, we would love to have you back on to actually share
Absolutely.
that with,
Oh,
with the community.
absolutely. I think one of the cool things I could do is maybe create a SWOTOR specific version of that chart and see who ends up being Satil Shan and who
Right,
ends
and
up-
Lana.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I don't know. That could be a fun thing to do as like a sign that I finished it.
Oh man, I'm an Evokai. What the hell's going on here?
Oh my god.
Start a new character. This is wrong.
Excellent. All right. And is there anything else to say about this?
No, I mean, I've been working really hard on it. At this point, it's over 100 pages, and there's over 230 articles of psychological publication that went into this. So,
Wow. Awesome.
but I will say that if I had never played SWOTOR, it would just be like a lot of the things that I've read in there. And I hope that, I mean, I don't know who in the audience would take the time to read all of that, because it's not like something you would read in a magazine that's about covering SWOTOR. But the whole perspective really comes from someone who cares about this game too. So
Very cool.
All right.
Let's go
Now-
back to
I forgot-
Kranitoko.
Yeah. So, Charlie, tell us about E E3.
Well, obviously a lot of this is not going to be Star Wars related at all, but hey, we're going to talk about it anyway. So obviously all the conferences occurred on Sunday and Monday. Some generated massive announcements, others kind of missed the mark, really. Obviously the highlights going to go through include all the conferences except for Nintendo, because theirs isn't really a conference and theirs doesn't really matter, and the PC gaming show, which not many people really care about, strangely enough, considering a lot of people are PC Master Race. Anyway, so firstly we had EA. There really wasn't a lot going for this conference. They had Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1's gameplay. They were both shown. Both looked absolutely stunning. Though those are the two games which EA pretty much relied on to help garner the interest in their conference. Obviously, BioWare's latest game, Mass Effect Andromeda, was shown. Not much gameplay was shown in their behind-the-scenes video, but it was obviously enough to keep you going until whenever they reveal full gameplay video. Obviously, as Tia mentioned, we got a sneak peek of what was to come for the Star Wars content. We didn't really see a lot. I know, obviously, we know about Viscera's game, and I see a lot of people are comparing that to 1313. There's like, I don't know how they're seeing that, because the shot we saw is completely different to what the gameplay demo was, but can only hope that it really is 1313, because that game looks
Wishful
stunning.
thinking.
Yeah, hopefully it is. To be honest, everything in this conference was either stuff that we already knew was going to be shown, or stuff we kind of expected anyway. Bethesda was the next one to do their conference. After last year's massive hitter, this year was kind of nah, it was a bit lackluster. Obviously, it was exciting for veterans of Bethesda, with both Quake Champions and obviously the reboot of Prey announced. There was also announcement of Elder Scrolls Remaster. Obviously, if you already own the complete collection on PC, you'll just merely get the upgrade to that. Finally, what I think surprised many was the announcement of Fallout 4 in VR, and I'm actually excited for that because I have not an Oculus Rift. I don't want to have that filth. I have the HTC Vive, and obviously they are building it for the Vive, but I think it's true that they're going to be bringing it to other VR things.
Well, you'd
later on
hope
down the
so.
line.
The HTC Vive
Yeah.
is going to be a reasonably limited audience, surely.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
any
So-
VR thing is going to be a limited audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's firstly coming to Vive, and then after that, who knows what. Then obviously we had Microsoft. What a disappointment! What a shock! A lot of the stuff shown was
Hey,
obviously
they
like
bought
EA.
LinkedIn.
What's that?
Microsoft did buy LinkedIn.
For $35 billion. Wow. But that's not game related.
Not
So-
game related, really. No.
If they have the money, they might as well do it. Might as well own the universe like Disney does. Obviously, Microsoft, like EA, the stuff they showed was either stuff we knew about or stuff we kind of expected. They did reveal Project Scorpio, and no, this has nothing to do with SWTOR's own Scorpio.
I was about to ask.
Wink,
but
wink.
Okay.
Wink, wink. Which is apparently set to be released next year. Is 4K capable in gameplay-wise, and it's apparently going to be setting the sales for Xbox's own VR business, whatever that shall be down the line. Something tells me, obviously, Project Scorpio will not be cheap, because 4K gameplay is, well, it's a big thing now. Big game highlights for the show was obviously Gears of War 4, Halo Wars 2, Scalebound, and Sea of Thieves. But again, we already knew about all of this before the conference even started. Then we had Ubisoft, and as always, it was an awkward show. We got to see all new gameplay for Ghost Recon Wildlands because, according to Ubisoft, Tom Clancy content is everything. Watch Dogs 2, which actually kind of bored me a little bit. It might just be because of the disappointment, which was the first game.
Right.
For Honor was shown, and personally, I feel it's just going to be as lackluster as Rise: Son of Rome. I don't know if anybody ever played that on Xbox One. It was average at best, and I just don't see interest for Honor for me. To be honest, maybe for everybody else, but I think it's just going to be like Rise. And the big reveal, which to do at the end of every conference, was
one
a
more
ski
thing.
game.
A what?
A what game?
A ski game.
As in skiing?
Oh.
On snow?
Well, yeah, so you can do snowboarding, skiing, is it paragliding? Is that what you call it? Paragliding, where you have like the wingsuit or wingsuit gliding, whatever it is.
Oh.
Yahoo! A bloody
yes.
sports
Okay.
game. Great.
Yeah, so it's you're sort of going down the mountain, and it's an online game as well. To be fair, I did actually like the 2012 SSX game from EA. I kind of wish they'd do another one of that. So here's hoping I might actually enjoy it. They do have like a beta which you can sign up for, which I've obviously signed up for, and hopefully that might be good. And finally, we have this year's and last year's and the years before that winners of E3, Sony. They obviously started off by pretty much blowing the minds of their audience by subtly revealing the next God of War game with Kratos with a beard. Obviously, Kojima, his next project was also revealed, called Death Stranding, and it obviously has, you guessed it, Norman Reedus as the star. He was also naked in that, but let's move on. Other highlights, obviously, which finally has a date of October. I've been waiting for that game for years, ever since I played Ico and Shadow Colossus when they released it for PS3 in the HD collection they had. Those games were stunning. I absolutely loved them. I never played them on the original PS2, which was a shame. It better not disappoint though. Obviously it's been so long, so I'm a bit concerned it might disappoint people. Resident Evil 7 was also given a fresh style, where they also released a demo for it on the PS4, which is quite terrifying, and it's quite intriguing on how they're changing that up. Obviously, speaking of demos, they have Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I
They gave a
I
snippet
saw
of
the
that.
trailer for that. Yeah, that looks like
I've
fun.
obviously played that on my channel, so look, if you want to go on my channel, Kranosoko Games, you can watch the video. It's doing very well so far. Not entirely sure why, but I guess people are excited for this game. The demo actually depicts the scene where Rey and Finn are escaping from Jakku, and they eventually get into the Millennium Falcon. So that's what you can look forward to in the demo. Crash Bandicoot was also revealed to be remastered by
Blast from the
Activision.
past.
Yeah, by Activision though, and he's also been put in Skylanders because Activision has to put everything in Skylanders now. They did it with Spyro, and now they're ruining Crash with it. But oh well. There was also a tease on the Star Wars Battlefront X-Wing VR thing, which T mentioned before. And if you already own the game and a PlayStation VR when it's released, you can obviously get that for free. And Call of Duty was also revealed with their gameplay trailer as well, their gameplay segment, and I'll admit it looks pretty epic. There's a few people who complain about it too much. You know, they saw the game, they thought it was completely different, they didn't think it was Call of Duty, they thought, oh my god, this is amazing, and then when they realised it was Call of Duty, they were like, oh, well, I'm not getting that game because it's Call of Duty, because people are just hating on it just because they can. I'm going to get it purely for, obviously, Modern Warfare Remastered. I really shouldn't, but hey, I'm going to buy it anyway. So that's my highlights of E3. There you go.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, Daniel, for that summary. And again, we will talk about your survey next week and on pretty much every show going forward until you tell me you've got enough data.
All right, yeah.
Excellent.
It should be ready for people in the middle of July.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. A few weeks out then.
Yeah.
And that's the news.
And that will bring us to the Academy. And this week, Sotarista explains the basics of playing as free-to-play, preferred, or subscribed.
Thank you, Swerterista.
Thank you. And that will bring us to the Force Feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And Cal wrote, after finally reading Deceived, I've concluded that the new companion will be Malgus. Hashtag not dead. Hashtag stuck in the shaft. Or Kephis. Hashtag he isn't dead either. You
never
can't
know.
kill
You really
Kephis,
can't.
you know.
Yes.
Every time you do kill him, he just comes back in the next operation.
Oh yeah, because Bioware did that sort of sneak teaser with Malgus and the Carbonite, which obviously they cut from the original Sacrifice trailer.
That's
So
true.
I'm just sort of wondering, there's only 2 more chapters. Do you think we're going to see Malgus? Probably not. I don't think so.
No.
But
I'd love to, though.
just baffles me why they made it in the first place, really.
Yeah. And Deceived is still my favorite of the SWTOR novels, although they're all pretty dang good. Born to Eat Bacon wrote in, wouldn't carbonite chambers with companions we dislike make awesome decorations?
Yes.
Yes, they would.
Yes, they would.
Especially since it wouldn't, hamper your crew missions anymore.
From your army of companions, yes.
Exactly.
If you just suggest it on the forums, it might happen, so...
Gajo Rosic wrote, giving OotiniCast a go on my commute. Haven't listened to a SWTOR podcast since Galactic Starfighter was a thing.
Jeez, that's a while.
It's been a while. Nice
But
to have you
welcome
back, though. Yep. Sukai wrote in, it looks like SWTOR is moving up in numbers again, so more story to come. And he has a link to superdataresearch.com. It'll be in the show notes. Do you want to go over this a little bit with us?
Well, the bit of interest is under the category of pay-to-play MMOs, even though it is free-to-play technically. To get the true experience, you do need to pay a sub.
Fair enough.
It's listed from 1 through 5, and number 1 is, of course, World of Warcraft, as
Fair
you would
enough.
expect. Lineage 1, East, presumably the Asian version, because I believe
Right.
there is a US version. And then there's Star Wars The Old Republic in at number 3.
Very nice.
Wow. Now, of course, where Super Data Research gets their numbers is all a bit speculative. I don't believe they have any secret source. They're using the same stuff we can find out in the wild. So take it all with a grain of salt. And in case you're interested, number 4 is Terra Online, and number 5 is Blade and Soul among
Interesting.
pay-to-play MMOs. And among the free-to-play MMOs is League of Legends, which isn't an MMO, but anyway.
Yeah, that's
No,
Crossfire, Dungeon Fighter Online, World of Tanks, which I have heard of, and Dota 2, which is another one like League of Legends, another MOBA. So
No
Weird.
WildStar at all?
I was going to say, word
Oh, God, no.
Wildstar, yeah.
Yeah.
no. Among the other MMOs that are active at the moment, Elder Scrolls Online is doing very well. In fact, they just announced that they're adding, apparently, level sync, just like SWOTOR. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, after all.
Oh, yes.
But yes, Rift, Lord of the Rings Online, they're all sort of very niche at the moment.
I see.
But anyway,
Okay.
so SWOTOR is doing well, and as Suki said, that means more story.
Alrighty, Jeff, aka Draknir, Dark Knight of Jedi Covenant, wrote, "Just a thought on how everyone can be happy and BioWare can capitalize monetarily. For the past few months, you've had discussions on how individuals were leaving SWTOR due to the fact that there is no new operations content, but BioWare has decided to focus on story. By them using this strategy, they have found that it did boost their monetary gains for the company in subscriptions because of CODFI. I, for one, dig the story strategy due to the fact that I use Star Wars as an ongoing story and not something that I do over and over again till I master it. Now, there are those that love doing operations and tactical missions and sharing the experience with other fans of Star Wars and SWTOR. This is where my idea comes into play. It seems as if BioWare will continue on the path that they are currently on due to the fact that they are making money. Given this, why not continue on this path, but, in addition, have a small team that creates operations and tactical content? For each year, they should come out with 2 operation maps or tactical maps and sell them separately, just like they would if you were playing on a console. Keep the current subscription plan in place for the story, but if you want the additional content, you pay a separate cost for the maps. If you do not wish to participate in the story content and not subscribe, you can still play the maps you purchased, but you will not get the story. If you're a current subscriber, they can offer you a discount on purchasing the maps if you so desire. This should keep everyone happy and bring back those who left and keep their current mode of story content. What do you think about the idea?
Current model of story content. Well, maybe?
I don't hate it. I do think they're always a little worried about making the subscription valuable enough, and one of the one of the things you do pay for is to have access to the operations and some of the and ranked war zones and so on that you don't get when you're not subscribed. So that might be an issue, but I don't overall hate the idea. If it would get operation content rolling again, I would definitely be for it.
I do wonder whether they're going to introduce single-player operations that will actually scale, just like we have with Flashpoints at the moment, which the story ones do have a single-player mode with your Jesus droid, but otherwise you can play them through as normals or as hard modes. Could they do the same thing with operations? Now, obviously that's not what he's suggesting, just something I thought I've been considering for a while. Basically make it possible to play through an operation in its entirety, but then have all the group mechanics kick in if you actually have an operations group.
I see.
So you can actually experience the story in the operation, but it's sort of like what they did at the end of Shadow of Revan, though that wasn't really doing Temple of Sacrifice. You just did other stuff that involved the same characters, which is obviously a hell of a lot easier.
So the idea is that the single player would be the multiplayer, but there would be 1 or maybe 2 mechanics that would have to be left out because it would involve tank swapping or some other multi-character mechanic.
Well, considering what they did with the Eternal Championship, they can certainly design single-player, reasonably complex encounters. So, some variant on that. Though, as far as his idea goes, I think you're right, Chill. They do need to keep the value in that subscription.
Yeah.
But having this as an alternative, but they really want people to subscribe, is really what it comes down to. They do want that ongoing revenue, and so...
And it's working for them, so...
Well, it has been. So remember, as he said, the big story strategy made them a lot of money. Remember that there is the other factor of the bounce that they got from Star Wars The Force Awakens. These are 2 things, both of which potentially influenced it, but we don't know which one because there's no way to tease them apart because they happen more or less simultaneously.
Yeah, too closely.
So all we can do is look forward. So if story stuff falls flat on its face going forward, obviously they will change yet again, but they just got to be driven by, go where the money is, basically. This idea...
The thing is, Chapter 16 is pretty much... I don't know if it's going to be in July. It's either going to be in July or August, one of the two. Because I hear a lot of people are saying it won't be released in July. July's too busy. But then, what's going to happen in the months between, obviously, the end of Chapter 16 and whenever Season 2 will be? Is there going to be anything at all? Is there
The,
going to be something there?
Yeah, our speculation is it's the light versus dark event is going to
Yeah.
be the thing that keeps
Yeah,
people playing
sure.
and potentially subscribe. So that's a very clever way to fill up all those months leading up to December, which I suspect is when they will announce Season 2
Right,
or
but they
release
have not
expansion
announced.
or whatever.
Yeah.
No
Obviously,
information
we don't know
to
about
date.
that until it's released. We don't know too much about it until, I think, this next stream coming up, isn't it? They're going to reveal more about it? Is it the one for Chapter 16?
Oh, who knows? They said it should be within a week or two we actually hear about it, because it actually
Yeah.
launches on 28 June.
Of course,
Yeah.
yes.
Also, we were told. Now, from the chat, Mikason said, "Personally, I appreciate the story focus. It has me playing regularly enough to maintain my subscription, and I've stayed subscribed for the last year straight through. The only full year in its history I haven't taken a break. So they're doing something right." So, fair enough.
Fair enough.
What if they were to make a chapter that could be played as an operation?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Like, to finish the story, like in Shadow of Revan, the Revan fight and Temple of Sacrifice were kind of a fork in the road, but it accomplished the end of the story. So what if when we finally get in the same room with Arkin and we're not going to get stabbed in the gut and then limp out of the room, there's a version of that fight where we can win it on our own with Lana and Theron and whoever else is there. Or you can go in with 7 real-life friends and have mechanics in the fight and not just be given a trophy for winning. And that's their way of their team actually having the time to do an operation because it's actually the chapter.
Sharing
They
the
can't tell
same
us that
assets and
because that would
everything
be
else.
Too exciting.
That would be brilliant.
That
Jeez,
would be
Daniel,
awesome.
I hope you're right. That
Yeah.
would be amazing.
It's a
That'd be
really
very
good idea,
cool.
so they might not want to do that. But
It may turn out to be too
They
complex,
don't
but
do the good
Yeah.
ideas.
yeah, the fact that it's sharing so much, wow. Oh, if only. But yes.
That would be cool.
Now, so Salisbury is mentioning that he reckons they're making a lot of money because the packs have got some really rare items, like the Force Awakens Kylo Ren's lightsaber, for example. Maybe, he said, people are buying stuff where they never have before. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The weapon tunings seem to be popular.
PPPM Hagu says most needed upscaling is to copy from what World of Warcraft does, where they actually have scalable raids. So you don't need either 8 people or 16 people. That's how it would be in SWTOR. You could actually just have some various numbers down to some minimum.
Right.
Maybe a 4-man or a little more than that. But then you could just scale it up depending on how many people you actually bring in the group. So that is a thing in WoW at the moment. So if SWTOR had that, even better. Just because
Yeah.
it's just a little hard to maintain a particular size group. And if it would just scale to how many people you actually get in your group and still be challenging, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great.
All right. Anything else to say on this? All right, then let's get on to the Silac Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And we've brought back Christina specifically to talk about some of the issues related to voice acting and performance matters. So, Christina, why don't you start us off?
All right. So I'm pretty active on Twitter these days, and there's a hashtag that goes around periodically called Performance Matters. And what that basically is support for voice actors who do video games who are not getting monetarily what they should be getting in comparison to people who do things like animation or movies or TV shows. They kind of are in this weird limbo. Because voice acting in video games is pretty new. Like, it's pretty new within the past 10 to 15 years. But nowadays, they all have it. Every single game is pretty much fully voiced.
Yeah.
From your Mass Effect games to Dragon Age games to even mobile games you play on your phone. They also, they make sounds and, there's jobs that go out all the time for mobile games that I see. In the union, the first union agreement for this was called the Interactive Media Contract, and it was drafted in the early 1990s.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was it expired December 31st of 2014. The contract expired. And so everybody in the union said, oh, that's really great that this expired because we have some issues that we would really like to address with the
Yeah.
union now that we've waited, well over 20 years to renegotiate this contract.
Yeah, that's
Let's
a
do it."
lot of changes
It's
to
a
be
lot of
holding onto the same
change.
dang contract. Yeah.
Yeah, so they tried to renegotiate it in February of 2015, and it failed. They could not come to a conclusion with these employers. And these are large companies. These employers, they mean Disney, they mean EA, they mean humongous companies that create video games.
Sure.
And they tried again to renegotiate it in June of 2015, and they weren't able to negotiate it again in June. And so this is what unions are for. They're actually really, really helpful and useful to people, especially in the entertainment industry, to sort of curb what these employers can get and squeeze out of you, before the union steps in and says, no more, this is not in their contract. So basically, when they were renegotiating, they asked for 4 basic, what I think are basic things based on where the industry has trended over the past 20 years. And it's posted, I'll post the link later, it's on the SAG-AFTRA website, the 4 things that the union requested on behalf of voice actors who do video games, because animation, it's separate because that's the television contract. It's different from interactive media, which is video games and other voiceover sort of things.
Okay.
Predominantly, this is about video game voice actors.
Sure.
So they asked for these 4 things, which I don't think are unreasonable. And the 4 things are, number 1, they asked for residuals and performance bonuses only for games that sell more than 2 million copies, either sold or downloaded. So per 2 million, they would get a residual or a bonus. But it's only per 2 million. So if you sell 2,100,000, you don't get anything more until you get to 4 million, and then that's another threshold that you would be paid at. So that is what they requested. And you get that. If you do animation, if you do commercials, if you do a commercial, they pay you for the session, they pay you for the usage. And that usage is usually 16 weeks. And then if they want to continue running your commercial, they have to pay you again for the usage of that for your work.
Right.
And that's how people, that's how you make a living.
Yes.
Right. And that's and that rewards if you do a really excellent job and and the ad or whatever you're talking about, in this case video game, turns out really well, then you've played a part in it, and and it helps reward good work and good effort.
And it pays for your fame as well, in theory.
That is a different topic that I will touch on, is the famous people doing this now. So anyway, that's the first thing that people ask for. They ask for residuals per 2 million copies. So any indie game studios or smaller studios probably wouldn't have to pay for that, because usually we're talking about multi-platinum games and companies with money to spare. So that's the first thing that
and when they would have to pay for it, it'd be because they just hit one out of the park, at least for a small company, and they'd probably be happy to.
Yes, one would assume they would be happy that their game was now multi-platinum, and they have to reward everybody involved.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing that people have asked for is that sessions when you do video games can be very vocally stressful. When you do a read for a commercial, it's usually nothing crazy. It's usually just, come ride and sign and drive in your new Lexus. Like, it's very smooth, there's nothing crazy. And then you go to do a session for a video game, and they're like, okay, death scream 1 second. Okay, again and again. Okay, now death scream 2 seconds. Okay, now death scream when you've died in a fire, death scream when you've died by a gunshot wound, no, this one to the head, this one you're just wounded. I mean, it's just noises and craziness.
Right, a lot of screaming and grunting, and vocal.
Yes, a lot of screaming and, a lot of force, you need to do that. And the union does limit to, I believe, 4-hour sessions. But if you do that every day for 3 weeks, then the week after, maybe when you book a commercial, you're like, oh my god, buy a Lexus, buy a Lexus, that's so sexy. So they essentially, for this point, were asking for stunt pay extra pay because the sessions are so stressful, and it's preventing some people from working afterwards. Like, they can't just go from job to job. Some people are having to rest for months and not take any kind of work.
Right.
So that's the second thing they asked for, that the employer said, nope, not going to do it. And that brings me... No, they did define vocally stressful. I'm sorry, I'm reading off the chat. They defined vocally stressful as any session that involved excessive screaming or use of force with your voice that resulted in damage to the vocal folds. And they had, I guess, some doctors like that examined people's vocal folds, because they can do that. Like, they can stick a camera down there and like look to see if there's damage there. So I guess that is how they managed to define vocally stressful. With okay, good. I'm glad I could clear that up for you. This is something very near and dear to me. So yeah, that is how they cleared that up.
Is that a research thing, or is that something that would normally happen at the end of a session when a doctor would examine?
That should not happen at the end of a session, but it can. Like, you can feel it. It feels terrible. It's scratchy.
But I mean, the doctor's examination, is that something that they would do normally, or is that something that they were doing to research it and figure out what was the threshold?
I assume that some people had experienced this and they just felt it and were scared and went to the doctor on their own.
I see.
I think that's how this got brought up to the union, is that they had been to the doctor. You know,
Right.
You have to take care of your instruments. So, I mean, I go. Everybody can get the little camera to look down there. So, and that brings me to the third thing, which is they are asking for a stunt coordinator to be in the studio with them. Because a lot of times in video games now, they don't just want you to read the lines. They put you in a motion capture suit, stuck over with all those little balls, and you actually play the scene. And they want you to say your lines and jump across the floor, get on a wire, fly across the studio. I don't know how to do that. I don't have stunt training.
Not safely. Yeah, exactly.
It's not safe at all. And if you were on a movie set or a TV set, that would never, ever happen with union workers. But they do it to voiceover actors because they can, because there's no contract. So they didn't want to even give them that, just to have a stunt coordinator in the studio to help people do things safely.
Yeah.
So
They're just trying to do it on the cheap, basically.
they are trying to do it on the cheap. That's what they're trying to do.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I mean, I guess if you're stunt trained, good for you. You go in the studio and like flip around and do your, your Gears of War roll into cover and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people have no idea how to do stunts. We just do, we do our voice
course.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you've done stunt work, I mean, you don't necessarily know how to check and make sure that the rig is safe and that it's correctly made and all that stuff. There's so many details that, you really would need a pro in there to be safe to do. So that makes sense. I mean, so voiceover work is not, this is not your granddaddy's voiceover work anymore. This is not, this isn't Mel Blanc just, talking in front of a camera, in front of a microphone and occasionally eating a carrot and spitting it out because he was allergic and, and that's it. And then going home. This is now, including a lot of physical stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so
What's
much
the
more now.
terms? What's the terms with like animated movies that have motion capture as well? What's their sort of terms? Like what do they, like you were discussing? What do they get? Do they get something
the
like that?
protection?
Do they get, like, a stunt or?
Oh, definitely. Oh, if you're on a movie set and there's any kind of stunts to be done, you best believe there are stunt coordinators
Even animated
there.
motion capture.
Yeah, because most of
Blimey.
those are just shot like in movie studios and things like that. They're actually.
And they would be under that. Yeah, they would be under that contract and that union.
Yeah. Okay, someone in the chat just brought up a great segue into my next point. The fourth thing that people are asking for is transparency. Bo Daddy just asked, do they let you know ahead of time that you will do this stunt work while doing voiceover? And the answer is sometimes, but not always. Because the fourth thing that people are asking for is transparency. Because sometimes you read for a role and they give you a couple lines, no context, no other lines around it, and that's it. And then they say, yay, you booked the job, come on in. Okay, and you have no idea what it is, no idea what game it's for, no idea anything about your character. This happens to people. They don't tell you anything. And so people are asking, hey, if I read for a TV show, they tell you what the TV show is, they tell you what channel it's going to be on, probably. They tell you what it's going to be rated, they tell you the premise, all of that. But for a lot of video game work, you have no idea. So people are asking, they don't tell you how many sessions that there will be, how stressful it will be, what the game will be rated, what the premise is of the game. Because I think there was a case maybe a year or so ago where someone had done VO work for a game. And it was, you know, just simple, innocuous lines. He didn't think anything of it. And then the game came out and it was like some horrible, racist, homophobic, insane, like Nazi game. And he was like, what? Oh no, that was not disclosed to me, because they don't have to disclose that to you, because it's not written anywhere in the contract.
I see.
And it's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, and all of a sudden you find yourself you find yourself in some horrible white power pro video game, and not even wanting to, you know, be anything to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yikes.
and he's trying to get his lines pulled from the game, and they're like, well, you're under contract, so.
They're doing all this because they can. As you say, there is no protection, hence why they want the agreement to give them the protection that they really deserve, because their peers in animation and other real movies get it as well. So why not? Why are voice actors treated as second-class citizens?
Because they can be.
Because they can be.
Because they can do it. They can do it. And it's getting more interesting now, because a few days ago, they're still unable to work out this contract. So the union called OSHA and demanded that OSHA start investigating employers. So
now who
I
is
guess
OSHA?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
It's a federal division that oversees workplaces, especially workplace safety.
Okay.
yeah.
In the US.
In the U.S., yes.
Yeah, in the U.S. Yep. So they called OSHA to come and investigate, and I have a link for that letter. There's a letter that they sent to OSHA asking them to investigate, and basically what they've been doing in the interim is trying to collect stories from people to say, hey, have you had a bad experience? And I only do non-union work, but I have definitely, there's a lot of work out there where you're like, hey, what is this for? And nobody will tell you. It's very
Cisco says, basically VO, voiceover for games, is where the movie industry was in the 1920s, basically. It's all new, so kind of like the Wild West without any safety net, basically.
Right. Where you have the big companies making the movies, or in this case the games, and they have all the power, and everyone's interested in doing it, so they will do it on the cheap, because they want to, who wouldn't want to be a VO person doing a video game for a game that you, especially a game that you would want to be play, or be known for doing. So yeah.
So it's not all studios. I would say it's definitely not going on in the BioWare VO booths. Their directors are very, very good, and they actually have a lot of people record remote, and they disclose the games and the premises and stuff like that. I've seen them doing their recording sessions. They'll give them even context. Sometimes you have no line context, like what came before.
Right.
So what they'll do in their studio is, they'll give you the line before, like, oh, Shepard, this is Caden's line. Because if your line is something like, we gotta get out of here. Like, okay, do I yell that? Like, is there a firefight going on? And then what if I'm hiding? Is it, we gotta get out of here? Is it, you've gotta get out of here, hurry? Because a lot of times you have no context, and that's how you get games with terrible VO. And everybody says, oh, what terrible VO.
Right.
And the voice actor going, well, I don't know. They said, this is your line, and didn't tell me anything else about it. So, I did my best. That was my best guess.
Well, it's good to know that BioWare is kind of doing is on the upper end of the scale as far as doing it right. I'm glad to hear that, and it makes sense. I mean, there's so much VO work, and when you play the game, you can tell that there's not a lot of those slip ups. I mean, when very rarely you do get kind of a weird line reading, it does kind of stand out because most of it, 99% of it, is so good. So
Yeah.
So
But when it's bad, it's bad.
now, ultimately, a union more or less has only one thing they could really do, which is go on strike.
Yep.
So we've
That
heard
has been
rumors of.
authorized.
So okay, is
It
anyone
was
actually
authorized. Yeah,
doing
they
it?
held a vote, and I think something like 96% of people who voted to authorize a strike, if that's what's necessary.
Okay, so the strike hasn't happened yet, but it's certainly a weapon in their arsenal in the negotiations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. I guess it depends on which people are truly mad. Like if you see people, like Jennifer Hale, John DiMaggio, that are going to go on strike, the big, the power players.
That's a lot
in the
more leverage
industry.
than than the many people who are also interested but have only done a little work. It makes sense.
Yeah.
That would be the same with any sort of entertainment industry strike, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, they had a writer's strike
Yeah.
Yeah.
some time ago.
That screwed a lot of
Yeah.
TV shows up.
Yeah.
And this could obviously impact
Hence
Star Wars:
reality
The Old
TV.
Republic. So, if the voice actors go on strike, then what are they going to do?
That's true. It could definitely affect SWTOR if it happens, and for how long, and so on.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think there's a clause like if you're already in a contract to do work, that you can still do that work. I would have
okay.
to double check if you're
Right.
in contract, if you can still work. But I mean, as far as new jobs go, it'll be interesting to see. And the sad part is, people who are non-union looking to move up in the world probably will seize the opportunity.
I believe they're referred to as scabs.
They are the scabs. So
Scabs. Nice.
probably see that. It'll be hard because if you want to show solidarity, then you'll stop taking video game work. And then it's hard because I'm trying to do video game work, and
Right.
then I'm not in
Yeah.
the union, but I can't do that. That's shitty is what it is. Just shitty.
Yeah. Oh well, I guess is there any next milestone, next big negotiation, or is it just ongoing? That's not really
It's
getting anywhere.
ongoing. They just recently called OSHA to investigate them. I think
Sure.
just a few days ago. So
Well, the
we'll see
mocap
what
stuff
that
is just
brings.
dangerous, basically. So something surely will come out of that.
yeah.
All
That's
right.
excellent. Were there any
So
other
that's it.
issues to bring up? Yeah. That's excellent. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
in and
thanks,
talking about
Christina.
this. This is very interesting.
And hopefully you
Thanks
can
for having me.
come back on if there's any big developments. Certainly if they call a strike.
That would be.
Hopefully it'll be good news, and the union will sign a new agreement, and everyone will be happy. I like happy endings.
Yeah.
So
SWTOR VO strike equals N. Every NPC is a droid.
Yeah. A droid or, an alien, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a mission terminal. Everything is a mission,
Or a mission
terminal.
terminal. Right.
There'd be that one chapter in season 2 where everything's beeps and roars.
Oh God, no.
The replayability would be epic.
Or they're just finding archive footage they recorded and they just cut out and like, oh, this will fit in. Let's chuck it in.
This feels a lot like the Agent Class story, just it's on a different planet.
All right.
right.
So I.
Excellent.
Just
Well,
left in chat the
I'll include
original
those in the show notes for you,
Yeah.
vision
Christina.
and the letter to OSHA.
yeah,
Thank you.
between Performance Matters and hearing about E3 and Daniel's project, this has been a very interesting show. I'm
Indeed.
very happy with it. So, but I think that is a show. So if you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for us all on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. And thank you to the chat room. And thank you to Charlie Cranatoko and Daniel and Christina.
Thank you. Great fun.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
And we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, keep recording. Don't stop. Everyone, thank you for watching. Next week, I have no idea. Hopefully, they will give us some information on the Light versus Dark event, so we can actually talk about that. And obviously, it'll be the week before June 28th, so they must give us the information, surely. Anyway, we'll have something to talk about, I'm sure.
Bioware.
Yes, Charlie. That's true. All right.
Here's
Have a good
Friday
one,
then.
guys. And may the Force be with you.